Hi, I'm Anuradha, Director and Co-founder of Lanka Talents Creation, and I'll be the moderator for the panel discussion Digitalizing Your Brand Image, organized by Lanka Talents Creation. Let me welcome you all to this panel discussion organized by Lanka Talents and our partners. Education partner, Tutor.lk, higher education partner, Lanka Academy, insurance partner, Allianz, and hospitality partner, Cinnamon Grand Colombo. What is digitalizing? Why should we digitalize our brand? And how important is digitalizing for brands' sustainability and growth? To answer these timely questions, join me in welcoming our 5 esteemed panelists representing different segments in the industry. First and foremost, towards my extreme right, Mr. S Sylvester, who was recently appointed as CIM Brand Ambassador. Mr. S Sylvester worked as the Marketing Director of Pan Audio Private Limited and counts for over 30 years of sales and marketing experience and currently working as a marketing consultant, trainer and tutor. Mr. S Sylvester also counts for over 30 years of teaching experience in teaching marketing, management related subjects. He has produced many Sri Lankan and World Prize winners for exams conducted by the Chartered Institute of Marketing UK. He was honored to receive the CIM's Outstanding Contribution to Marketing Education Award in 2011 and 2014 for his role towards assisting students to obtaining a world-recognized qualification. Recently, he was appointed as a brand ambassador of CIM Sri Lanka. He has been a CIM and SLIM member for over 30 years and have served in numerous board positions in both Chartered Institute of Marketing CIM Sri Lanka region and Sri Lankan Institute of Marketing SLIM executive committees, including the honorary secretary of both institutes. He also has served as the chairman for SLIM Education Reforms Committee for 6 consecutive years. Mr. Sylvester is also actively involved in Rotary for over 20 years and has served as the Assistant Governor during the year 2010-2011 and was awarded the Best Assistant Governor for the year 2010-2011 and also won the Best President's Award in the year 2009-2010, and in the same year his Rotary Club of Colombo Midtown was awarded the Best Club in the district under his leadership. Thank you for joining with us, Mr. Sylvester. Then it's Dr. Manisha Rodrigo, the younger CEO and the directress of Bopitio Auto Enterprises, Sri Lanka. She is a young entrepreneur serving in the automotive spare parts manufacturing industry, where she has her own company, Bopitio Auto Springs, and she is the youngest CEO in Sri Lanka, serving at Bopitio Auto Enterprises. Also, she recently graduated as the youngest PhD holder in Sri Lanka. Thank you, Dr. Manisha, for joining with us today. Then I have Mr. Anuradha, Director and CEO of Global Contriver, a human resource managed professional with about a decade of exposure in the industry of leisure and hospitality, real estates, FMCG, construction and education services. He has catered a corporate level manager, HR strategist for both local and international companies in Sri Lanka. He is the Director and Chief Executive Officer at Global Contriver Private Limited in Sri Lanka and serving as an independent consultant for a number of companies in strategizing the functions such as human resource, administration and general operations. Claiming his business administration majors academy from University of Peradeniya, he is currently serving as a visiting lecturer for a number of higher education institutes, including Lanka academic campuses and foreign affiliated universities in Sri Lanka and South Asia. Then we have Ms. Rasini Bandara, psychologist for Mind Heals, lecturer, public speaking and personality development coach. And the last speaker for the evening is Mr. Ahamed Aroos. But due to an unavoidable situation, Mr. Ahamed Aroos will not be able to join with the rest of the panelists today, but will be set to join with the rest of the panelists separately. Mr. Ahamed Aroos is a CEO of Rainco Private Limited, branding expert, strategist, operational specialist, and a human catalyst with 21 years of corporate career in sales, marketing, and corporate management. Currently serving as the Chief Executive Officer at Rainco, he had worked in healthcare, telco, FMCG, and lifestyle accessory sectors in Sri Lanka, UK, Colombia, Brazil, and Indonesia. He had worked at many multinationals such as Eli Lilly, Lycatel, and Reckitt. and local conglomerates such as Hemas and Rainco. With his passion to educate and train budding marketing professionals, he has served as an EXCO member and reps committee in directing marketing education at SLIM. So let me ask you the first question, Mr. G.S. Sylvester. So how important is it to understand and differentiate internal and external customers?
First, let me talk about external customers.
All right, sir.
If I bring what is marketing is all about understanding our target customers and satisfying them and delighting them in a profitable manner. So in that sense, we need to understand who is our target customers is very important. What is their profiles, right? Where do they buy, how do they buy, and why do they buy? So understanding all about them is paramount important for organization to be successful. So it's very important for organization viewpoint to identify who is our target customers and what do they want to buy is very important, but that will give us how do we develop a marketing strategy to satisfy the desired satisfactions. So there is no doubt about anybody's mind that customers are very important component of a business, and without them there is no business. Secondly, we talk about internal customers. And what are these internal customers? A lot of organizations, I would say, neglect this part. This is my point of view. Internal customers are the people who work in the organization. So I would always debate and say, if the internal customers are not happy working for your organization, how can they go and delight or satisfy the customers externally? So internal customers is very important for your organization. So areas like empowering them, training them, motivating them is very important if you want to be successful. Secondly, consumers make judgments based on how the internal customers talk with you. So they make the decision. So internal customers should convey about the organization. A customer would believe what the internal customer says rather than what the advertising platform basically would say. So from organizational perspective, both are very, very important. You need to look at your internal customers, motivate them, empower them, and continuous training is very, very important. And also external customers, which I'm sure most organizations are doing. But I think today many organizations, especially after the pandemic, are looking at the internal staff, especially how do we motivate them, how do we encourage them, how the encouragement is taking place. So internal, external customers are very important for the success of the organization.
All right, sir. So then in the aspect of digitalizing, what would you say are the pros and the cons of it?
Right. So what is digitalization? Basically, it's a business model. How do you run your business using digital technologies? The pandemic was a wake-up call to many companies because many companies could not communicate with their consumers, nor deliver the products, nor the consumer could able to contact the customers. So that was a wake-up call. And today, every organizations want to be digital platform. They want to on digital platform. So, but having said that, for me, for me, the way I look at it, you can't basically overnight convert an organization from traditional technology system to digital technologies. That's what my belief is. So for me, there are 4 key elements very, very important. Number one, the content, right? You need to carefully think what is your content, what you're going to communicate with your consumers. Number 2, the process of digitalization. Thirdly, the technology what you're going to use is very, very important. Fourth one is also very important, taking from the cue from the internal customers, organizational change, right? So organization will be changed in terms of embracing digital technology into your organization. So for me, these 4 elements are very important. As an organization, you need to think through all these 4 and have a proper plan and execution to be successful if you are moving into digitalization. And also, what I understand, some organizations has gone from a 100% shift from traditional technologies to digital technologies. I come from traditional background, right? So I would believe that is not good. You need to integrate both traditional and digital technologies if you want to be successful. Having said that, it also depends on your target market. So if your target market is more millennial, young savvy, then digital technology is going to work. But if you're looking at a more mass market, you need your presence both in digital as well as traditional. But integration of these two is very, very important for the consistent branding of your message.
So if you don't mind, is it possible for you to give an example of how do you mean by, integrating both traditional and the digital aspect of it?
Right. For that question, I need a one full day for you. So it's basically you need to make sure what is your message is going to be, right? So based on your message, how do you what happens is that the traditional media is normally done by a different set of people and the digital is done by a separate set of people. So these two are different people. So what happens, example, if I want to do an advertising campaign, whom do I go? I go to an agency and basically I tell them, okay, you basically do. Then digital marketing done through an internal staff. So sometimes they have a different message which goes through an advertising agency go through. So here you need to have a proper brief. Somebody give proper brief, and that brief has to be practiced both. But today, a lot of agencies are using all together. So this is what is important. So you need to start think through, and you need to make sure whatever the message coming from your TV, your radio, your billboards, or through your Facebook or Instagram, the message is one consistent message coming through.
Thank you for summing up one day's lecture in a very few seconds. All right, sir. So then what is the effect of different marketing strategies and understanding what aspects to change?
Different marketing strategies will depend on the target customers. Okay, who are your target customers? Then you need to understand what is different strategies would be. So from that strategy, I would say, I spoke about content marketing. So I would say content marketing is very important from a digital marketing aspects, because for me content marketing, one is educating the consumers about your product, about your brand and all those things. So it provides education, awareness and all those type of things. So by educating them, they can make good purchasing decisions. They can basically know about your organization, which I would say persuading them to come and buy. Then content marketing also brings traffic to your organization using a search engine optimization and all forth. And if your product is good and what you have communicated is true, I would say it builds customer loyalty towards your product. So you need to think through the content marketing, which is very important as an organization. So when you're communicating digitally, you need to be, one, your content should be believable and it should be true, and it should basically deliver the promise that you're communicating, right? And you should be able to persuade, and you should bring traffic, what I call inbound marketing. Customers should be able to find you more than you going behind consumers. So strategy will depend on your target audience. How do you want to use your strategies?
All right, sir. So it is an honor to have the brand ambassador of CIM Sri Lanka on board with us. Please share with the audience what is your role as a CIM brand ambassador is.
Okay, I've been involved with CIM now I think almost 30 years. From the time CIM, before CIM had a Sri Lankan region, I was involved with Associated Marketing Association. And then when CIM Sri Lanka started, I was basically involved with all. I think I am the only person in Sri Lanka, I stand to be corrected, but I think I'm 100% right. The only person to serve as honorary secretary, both Sri Lanka Institute of Marketing and Chartered Institute of Marketing Sri Lanka region. I don't think anybody took that position. So I have worked with Sri Lanka Institute of Marketing and with CIM. Mainly in the education, I've been involved with the Students Committee of CIM for many years. And even last year, I was involved with the CIM as a leader for education. That's what I liked it. But this year, they appointed me as a brand ambassador for CIM in Sri Lanka. The two key roles are there. One is membership, other one is qualification. So I would like to be, I think I will be more involved in taking the qualification. That is my forte. Into schools and basically getting students to study, because education is something very, very important, and I think there is no second words about it. It's an investment. So getting students to follow CIM course and talking about the advantages, benefits of CIM, and getting more students to basically would be my main role, promoting the brand of CIM in the minds of Sri Lankans.
All right, sir. So then how important is creating engaging content? The content can be either digitally engaging or touching the customer's heart. What is your feedback on this?
Right. So as I told you earlier, content is very important. If you see some of the content, what is coming in either digital or in traditional, sometimes there is a mismatch. Okay, what digitally, as I told you earlier. So this is very important. You need to make sure the message has to be integrated, because as a consumer, it's very difficult for us to differentiate. So what comes into your mind is positions the brand. So whatever we say, that has to be properly thought of, and one conscious message has to be coming in. So as I told you, content is very important. As an organization, you need to make sure you plan through what you are basically telling to consumers is very important. But that goes into the mindset and positions your product in the mindset. So content marketing is very important, whether digital or whether traditional media. What you tell to consumers should be trustable, then it should be believable in the minds of the consumer.
All right, sir. Thank you, Mr. Sylvester. Then I would like to move on to Dr. Manisha Rodrigo. So your first question will be, how to differentiate yourself from the crowd in a digital world?
Yeah, in a digital world. So I represent the youth sector. So according to the researchers, it is saying that around 65% of the world population is now using mobile phone to access internet. So by 2021, with the COVID-19 pandemic, it is sure that it is the percentages has gone up. So the digitalization, the brand digitalization has to be unique according to you yourself and according to your company. So being in the young generation, you have to have your own brand image. We are Manisha Rodrigo. So what does she has? So you have to communicate what do you have in the digital platform accordingly, without going into this generation wave. We have to go apart from the wave, and you have to brand yourself accordingly. So you asked me what differs.
How to differentiate yourself from the crowd.
How to differentiate myself. So you can see most of the younger generation people are nowadays communicating, if you take the social media, so mostly they are communicating like posts, like discriminating posts, maybe a joke or something. So, but it's not that thing we have to communicate. We have to communicate, okay, you maybe you have educate yourself, maybe you are working for a company, maybe you have your own company. So you have to communicate that content, not the what others have told. So maybe you can communicate what persons have told who is bigger than you, maybe from knowledge or maybe from experience. They have said, okay, this is this theory, or according to their perspective, this is the correct thing. So if it is good for yourself, or if it can be changed some other person in a good way, so that is what you have to share. So if we come into the company's part, so in our company we have a separate website and separate maybe a Facebook page. So we have to brand separately. What is Bopitia Auto and what is Manisha Rodrigo? So Manisha Rodrigo has to be separate, the company has to be separate. So the main thing is not going according to the generation wave. So that's my message to the young generation. Please don't go according to that wave. So stay in the path.
All right, that's one wonderful message. Don't go with the generation flow. That's one way of looking at it. Okay, so then how would you say, what is your digital presence?
Yeah, my digital presence, like I said, I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn.
All right.
So you can go through my page and it is different.
Okay.
So that's my message to the young generation. You can go and see.
Okay.
It's only about me, myself. And
Okay.
if we take the company's profile, it's about the company.
All right. Okay. So then let me go to the next question. How did you find or react to the public and employees when you became the younger CEO in a male-dominated industry?
Yeah, actually, I don't get in that point of view, because
Okay.
yes, it is a male-dominated industry, but if you are competent of the things that you have learned and you are in that field practically, it
Okay.
is not that thing. It is a male-dominated industry. A woman can't do that. A lady can't do that. It's not like this.
Yeah.
That so. I am in the business since my birth actually.
Yeah.
So because my family has a family business. So
Yeah.
from that age, I got into the human resources side, marketing, transportation, delivery,
Yeah.
hiring, every part. So
Okay.
the manufacturing, production planning, so
Yeah.
each and every part. So I'm competent. So if there is a person who is engaged in the business and he knows that I am competent that in this area, she knows that. So that's the only thing. So that's not a real question. Everyone is asking, so Manisha, how are you doing? This is a male dominated industry.
Yeah.
Whenever I go, there are so many uncles.
Yeah.
I have to say. So when I go to a training even, so they are like maybe she's a daughter of some person. So but still after all, she has a company. How she's doing that? So in Sri Lanka, I'm manufacturing automotive leaf springs. So that is the main component in the suspension system, and I have to say that's not difficult if you know the content correctly.
All right, and then that's a very different way of answering, I would say. So then the next question will be, what is the importance of digitalizing your brand to increase awareness?
Yeah, increase awareness. In that case, Bopiti Auto, the brand, is a manufacturer of automobile spare parts in Sri Lanka.
All right.
So the target customers are the automobile spare parts shops and medium and large scale garages. So we have to do our marketing directly. On the traditional way, because most of the spare parts shop owners and the garages owners are not in this digital presence yet in Sri Lanka. When we talk about Sri Lankan perspective. So we do both traditional and digitalization marketing, as Sir said. We have to go through the flow and we have to say that our customers, yes, Bopiti Auto is in the digital platform as well as
the traditional
way. The pros in the digitalization platform is that it is cost effective and we can get into a more targeted audience than when we going directly. So it is important for a company or for a person to go digital in this era. Mostly, I must say, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, most of the countries have shifted into this online platform and digitalization. So it is important nowadays to go digitalize yourself as much as you can. As I said earlier, you have to have something in your back to digitalize itself. Yeah. So you have to create that background to come in that digital platform.
All right. Thank you. So then I would like to shift to Mr. Anuradha. Okay. So then the first question for you, Mr. Anuradha, is that what can you tell us about the impact and importance of digitalizing the HR process? Okay. And then shifting the process to HRIS system, and then the automation process of key HR functions. How would you like to share your opinion?
Okay, so thank you very much, Asada. Coming to the HR aspects, actually, it's basically, let me first briefly explain you about digitizing, and after that, digitalizing the HR process. Coming to digitizing, actually, it's a process where you try to change your things into the online platforms and things like that. You know, you are going to use some of the computers and networks things and things to do your things in manual HR. And also, I must say that we have changed from personal management to human resource management, right? Yeah. So it was all about, in personal management, we just considered the people as the machineries, right? Yeah. And we were totally depending on the production and the productivity. Coming to the human resources, actually, in coming to the digitalizing of human resources, as you said, it's all about, having all these clouds and using some of it's actually, I should say, that is the evolutionary stage of digitizing. So it's basically, once you convert it to the digitizing, so then digitalizing is basically your evolutionary stage. So that using HRIS, actually, it has to start from the beginning. I mean, let's say from HR planning. So what I believe is actually with my industry exposure, what I've experienced so far is actually some of the organizations are there still in Sri Lanka. They are with the conventional sort of human resource process. They don't have the proper systems to evaluate their human resource planning things and the requirements as well as the skill development things, right? Yeah. We have several functions in human resources. So starting up from human resource planning, actually it's a good initiative if you are implementing a human resource information system that is called HRIS. So if you all are implementing a system where we have the statistic and all the details, whatever we need to make the decision. So decision making needs the information. That is how it comes, right?
Yeah.
So HRIS plays a vital role in making the decisions as well as coming to the conversions of systems from conventional to the digital era.
Okay.
And the impact is, of course, we can from planning stage we can plan the human resources as well as now previously we had some conventional systems like the people are sending some of the CVs through what you call snail mail in Sri Lanka, right? So basically the conventional mail. I'm not insulting, but I'm telling them in snail mail. So coming to that, of course, receiving a paper and putting a signature or seal on it, and going through a sort of a very conventional and very a poor kind of a interview process, we can just do easily through HRIS, because we will receive a PDF document from the candidate, and we can being the board of interviewers, right? So we can evaluate the CV through that. And we know what is the particular areas or the curriculum that, basically the JD as well as the JS, job specification is there. So we can comply all the qualifications and things like that with whatever the reference criteria. So then after, we can select the candidates, those who possess all these qualifications, and easily we can do. Then after coming to the performance, of course. Nowadays, I see that there are some advanced technologies, especially we also, in my company also, in Global Contriver, we are also using some of platforms to evaluate the human performances, right? Even though we are having a less much of a staff, and also since we are interconnected with some of the other countries and regions, so we need HRISs, where we are monitoring some of the performances of foreign located individuals through this HRIS, and using that, of course, we can directly monitor them, because we don't want to rely on someone, now when it comes to performance appraisal or something, when it, with my industry exposure only, I'm telling you, when I was heading some companies in HR and administration, there were so many complaints when it comes to performance appraisal and all, because basically the people would say, sir, I worked, I'm a totally committed employee, but still my evaluator is not giving me the marks. So that was a common issue, right? But addressing to all these things, we can, through an HRIS, we can easily monitor all these things, right?
Yeah.
We don't want to rely on someone other's word, and we can do them. Also coming to the compensation as well, payroll. Now, previously, way back in 1997 or somewhere, because I only came to the industry by 2011 or 12. So it's basically a decade ago, it seems. So that when I was coming, actually, there were some of proper HR systems developed, right? And even though there are some of the, I should say, in Sri Lanka, still we are having the conventional thought where we are still implementing some of the conventional systems. I should say that, writing on the books and, doing things like that. So if you are having an HRIS, so what you can do is, here the people are not expecting a time card to be punched at the security or the gate, right? So now the thing is, actually you are in the biometric systems which are developed. So all these attendance and everything can be monitored, and all the employee remuneration can be monitored. And even it is easy to now, Sri Lankan government has introduced some of the initiation like e-remittances and all these things. So you can go with them if you are using the HRIS. So that is basically the impact. Not only that, but you have a lot to discuss. But of course, since the time is constrained, so I'm just telling. These are the things that you can get. These are the things that we can see as the benefits of HRIS.
All right. Okay. So then what are the benefits of having an interactive internal communication with the employees through intranet, mobile apps, or company social media? Like Mr. Sylvester said, there is the internal and external customer.
Exactly.
So when it comes to the internal, from an HR perspective, what is your opinion on this?
I totally agree with Mr. Sylvester, because he said that when it comes to the external customers, it's external, right? So first we have to consider about the internal customers. That is exactly correct. Because when it comes to human resources in the means, so coming to the communication, internal communication is very vital. The problem is, actually we see lots of conflicts, especially when it comes to role conflicts, internal conflicts, or maybe let me say intra-group or inter-group conflicts, right? These things are often happens because of all these communication gaps. When it comes to Sri Lanka, now when it comes to global organizations, you can see, especially when it comes to MNCs and all other franchises, you can see very flattened hierarchies. But in Sri Lanka, of course, I'm referring to the context. We can still see some of the, lengthy hierarchies, which are very tall. And it may take some time to, if the decision maker has made a decision, so it may take some time to go down.
Yeah.
And also to receive the feedback, it may take some time again. So your feedback and response time, that is the lead time, right? So you have a kind of a lead time. Communication is very vital, because when you make the decisions as a decision maker, suppose that you are a decision maker, so you are totally depending on the information, whatever you receive.
Yeah.
So coming to the automation, or maybe digitalizing all these information resources is very important, because you can just get the information from different sources. As an example, let me say, in most of the organizations, especially when it comes to leisure and hospitality industry, I do believe here it's also the same. They are still using some of the memorandums and all these things, which are in a very physical way, as well as some of the organizations are using emails as their main communication method among the internals and externals, basically. But when it comes to externals, it's okay, quite fine. But when it comes to internals, should be very speed. The data should be accurate as well as speed. So what I suggest is actually through implementing a system which conveys the messages through SMSs, emails, it can be some of the other digital media. So that is very important for your down layers.
Okay.
Other than the layers, those who are making the decisions, it is very important, because they know that what is the decision made by the top level.
Yes.
And also that is circulated through the organization, and they know what exactly to be done.
Yeah.
Right? So that is very important. And the other thing is receiving the feedback from the point of view of a decision maker. So once you have implemented, once you have communicated, you can't expect now things are dragging and things are getting delayed because of this, poor communication. But if you have the proper communication, you can expect things to be done in the, expected way.
The most smoothest possible.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
The precise way.
Yeah.
So that is the importance that I see
Okay.
in implementing these types of systems.
All right. So I think that you did a very fair justice to that,
Thank
point. Okay. So then, is there a necessity of adopting a paperless approach in HR? You said that there is a huge lead time, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So then, if we adopt into a paperless system, what is the advantages?
Exactly, Asanta. But the problem is actually in Sri Lanka, that is the most. But what should I say?
Am I putting you in a difficult situation?
Yeah, but not me actually. I think that the people those who are watching at this video, actually, they will think about twice.
Yeah.
The problem is still Sri Lanka is having a conventional way of having the papers and all these things, especially when it comes to statutory requirements and all these things. You have policy now. As companies, we have policies.
Yeah.
We have our own company policy of maintaining all our records and things like that. But if you can make your organization scriptless, now we being an organization which is newly started, but still we are scriptless, right? Totally, we are working with some of the other than the payment gateway solutions. We have all the things systematized in digital work. We don't have even a CV in a printed way. So all these things are recorded in our servers. Thing is actually, Asanta, when it comes to scriptless will save your time as well. Right, you don't want to worry about the document. There can be some of the misplacements, or maybe even the updation is also difficult.
Yeah.
When it comes to, I can still remember when I was started my career. Right, that is the beginning. I can't exactly tell you I can't remember the exact the years and duration. By that time, actually, we had to submit some of the reports required by President's Security Department, because I was initially a hotelier, right? So for that also, we had to maintain some of structured formats, because we had to feed some information into the formats.
Okay.
Now, let's suppose that if we have taken all this information into hard copies or whatsoever, we will have to occupy our staff to get things done, just for the purpose of submitting the information to the PSD.
Yeah.
So that is actually utter wastage of your time, right? And also coming to the other ways, like let's say if you have an updation, right? If you need any updation of your employees' records, so it's all about what you have to do is, if you are having an HRIS or something like that. I'm not particularly telling about the HRIS, but all the databases, OMISS, Management Information Systems, what you have to do is you just need to feed your things inside, and whatsoever the document type that you need to get, so you can easily get them in the whatever the format that you like, and according to the purpose that you are submitting them through. And also we had a big issue, especially, I don't know whether I'm taking some time, but still I should have to tell this, because I can still remember how did we struggle to have the record room facilities. Now still in Sri Lanka we have the record rooms. Maybe you have to use a ladder to climb up and get the records from the records, right? Which is pointless end of the day. So that these are the things, and that will save your time, money, as well as your effort. So where you can reduce. Now in these days we can see some of the office aides. There was a position called office aides. Now we are not in a position to recruit the office aides because we don't have office aide work where we have the productive labor. So that's it. Okay. So you can reduce the cost and the time and the things like that.
Okay. So then, in your opinion, what is the importance of adopting best HR practices to organizations to attract good caliber employees?
Simply, if you are having good HR practices inside the organization, it's basically that you are retaining your employees as well as you are recruiting more employees, and the people, those who are not inside, the people, those who are willing to come to your organizations, you will have a potential workforce out there. So most of the companies, what I feel is actually, when I was working as HR manager, I struggled to get some people inside the organization. Not that I'm telling that organizations didn't have the kinds of best HR policies, right? We had to develop. Even having HR policies in the sense, not only digitalization or whatsoever, that will retain your internal customer, as you said, Mr. Sylvester. Retain your customer, as well as there will be a much of workforce, those who are willing to provide the service to you. Nowadays, the organizations are basically getting the services because of they are remunerating the employees. That is not the case. Where you must satisfy the employees first by giving them the recognition, and they should feel that they are in a safe environment. Nowadays, the majority in Sri Lanka, I do not see that they feel that they are in a safe environment. Always whenever I'm normally, randomly I ask, right, being an ethical human resource professional, right, I ask, how do you feel with that? This is the normal way that I'm asking. So that they will say, okay, so fine. But when I'm asking, is it all right? Your organization caters you a lot. Remuneration, how about those? Fine, so I think, that is why we are here. So that is what, right? So the attitude should be changed, not through, canvassing or maybe putting some of the posters or showing off your things and, certifications. Actually, when it comes to organization, they do believe that. Even when I was referring some of their job advertisements, I saw that one organization was putting their certifications, right? Actually, it didn't give kind of a weightage to the job, right? It's all about the word of mouth. Whatever you feel now, recently I saw that that is from one of the survey communities. They have published that who are the best employers in Sri Lanka. So I saw one apparel brand. So actually they are good. By my experience, I know it. So that is basically the way that they practice. Okay, good HR practices in the sense that should be the orientation that must happen from the orientation era, right? The stage from the orientation up to the even whenever you are handling the grievance of the employees, or maybe even after retirement, right? That has to be there. So the most important part is you will retain your employees as well as you will get a potential crowd out of there if you all are implementing your good HR practices. So that is why.
All right, thank you, Ms. Anuradha.
Thank you.
So next I'll be moving on to Ms. Rasini Bandara. What would you like to say are the pros and cons of social media usage?
Well, I might have to do that the entire day or something. But first of all, thank you for having me. And it's again quite an honor to be a panelist among such personalities. The pros and cons of social media, you said, yes. Well, actually, I consider myself quite lucky because I was part of this whole transition of technology. I was born in an era where the biggest thing for us was the television. We struggled a lot with VHS cassettes, all that. And then even the emergence of the mobile phone. When I kind of look at the pandemic that hit us, and then the way that the youth, and even I would say, regardless of age, got pretty much close to technology. As soon as I got out of school, I remember having this mobile phone where my only form of entertainment was this snake going after some food in a black and white setting. And then now we are exposed to this massive platform called social media. And it's, let me speak about the good side of it. I mean, why we always want to bring the bad side first.
Yeah.
So social media is a platform whereas there is a massive audience. And at the same time, it's, you can also differentiate that audience. If you consider a platform like LinkedIn, then it's a more very much professional-based platform. And then you have the Facebook, where I would say it's a mix of, you know, formal and informal. And then you have something like Instagram, and then Twitter in another level. So it has a right definition and a right, I would say, character and a personality to all these platforms, which then whoever, I would say maybe somebody who's younger and then, you know, want to portray themselves or else, you know, maybe bring out a brand. I would say I'm the least competent out of all these individuals to speak about branding and marketing, but I can talk about people. So then yes, so then you know your audience. And then let's say if you are a professional, then you know that LinkedIn is your platform, or else maybe a page on Facebook. So you know that, you know, there is a certain, I would say, the right kind of lines are drawn. But that is something that you pretty much do not get in the mainstream media because it's catering to a massive audience, and then you don't necessarily draw those lines, right? So whoever who wants to take it can take it, not then that. So that's one thing. And at the same time, it's pretty much exposed in global scale, right? It's not just something, for example, if you take mainstream media or other ways, then it's, let's say, for example, television. If it is a channel in Sri Lanka, then it'll only cater to Sri Lankans here with the language as well. But then social media is not a platform like that. Whatever you say, somebody living across the globe has a way of connecting to you. I mean, I must say that I myself had the ability to connect with a lot of individuals living around the globe. And at the same time, bringing a lot of people together to one platform. So you are getting a massive exposure. That is very positive. At the same time, it has its negatives as well. Well, if I'm to talk about the negative side of it, I would say when you are projecting yourself in the mainstream media, then I think personally there's a lot of credibility involved in it. If you want to say something, you can't just go and say something on TV, right? You need to have a history, you need to have a set of credentials, right? You need to be somebody who the respective people would say, okay, this person has that influencing power, or else have that persuasive power, or else have earned it, I would say. But it's not the case when it comes to social media. Anyone can say anything, and that is quite negative, right? It's more like, I would say, also now for you to write a paper, publish something, you need to have that credibility, right?
Yes.
Then ඒක හරියට නිකන් අර මේ අපි කිව්වොත් යම් washroom එකකට ගිහලා අපි ලියන්නේ, right?
Yeah.
When you're sitting in the toilet and then you don't have nothing to do, you just scribble something. It's something of that scale. And that's the danger part of it, right? So social media is something like, when you take the newspaper, we give a lot of respect to the newspaper, right? We absolutely accept everything that's in it. So social media is like those particular leaflets that comes with the newspaper, right? So how much people trust what's in social media is kind of questionable. At the same time, I would say a lot of people who are pretty much, I would say, insecure or inferior have this potential of fabricating a sort of superiority in social media as well. So I would not go so negative. At the same time, I would say during our time, I don't like to compare this, but with experience, you absorb a lot of things, right? So I would say we grew up in a society where we had people and personalities to look up to, right? Those people, I think, are people who really worked, and whatever they said, they were accountable of what they were saying. Right? They had the knowledge to say. But nowadays, you can see the youth and all these little ones, being really influenced by YouTubers and all these people, and the language they use. They have taken it as something like, oh, that's the trend. Right? So if you do not have a Facebook account, if you do not follow this kind of person, then you are not accepted in the society. So again, I would say perceptions have changed a lot. So, it's a time to embrace technology. Right? Technology has indeed brought all of us together. And social media indeed was our salvation facing this pandemic. But at the same time, I think it's always quite wise to be very mindful about what you are bringing into your life.
All right.
I'm sorry, I took
No problem. So, how much are people willing to accept social media branding in respect to psychological perspective?
Well, I would say everything about branding or marketing is psychological.
Yeah.
So it's more of playing with your mind.
Yes.
And so I would say people are still in this idea, having this perception that, when it comes to the mainstream media, they just have pretty much very less doubts about it. Right. So if somebody comes and speaks on a television, and if somebody put out a paper article or something of that, if you have an interview on radio, right, then people have this tendency to believe it to a certain extent. I don't know, I can't speak for the entire population, but I would say yes, if something goes on television, even I would say I would pay attention. Right? If something goes on news, I would say it's not that, you can pretty much hear or watch news nowadays, but still then again, yes, you will actually find a certain connectivity there. Yeah. Because you have been conditioned in such a way. Yeah. I would say yes, so maybe through your parents, through your grandparents, you're conditioned in such a way that you say, TV ke yanawa nang, yes, eka hari, right? But with how things are being manipulated in social media, I would say yes, people will have their certain doubts. I myself would say that if some sort of a post goes on Facebook, then how much am I willing to accept it is always a question.
Yes.
Right? And that is why I would say, Osanda, that just because it's on Facebook, people nowadays do not believe it. They would go into all other platforms, they would search YouTube, they will go into all news channels abroad, and then would be like, okay. That's right. Because the thing is, sometimes it's very easy to create crisis using very, very little things. And especially, that is also, again, I would say psychology, understanding the minds of people.
Yeah.
Right? Specifically, I would like to take a small example here.
Definitely.
Sorry for taking time.
No problem.
Now, I have been in a generation where we were exposed to a war that consumed Sri Lanka for 30 years. It really took us back 30 years. And we've actually seen the pros and I don't think there were any pros. All the negatives actually that came with it. And we experienced the beginning of it and the ending of it. And then nowadays you have a younger generation who saw that victorious part of war. And then suddenly there was certain, again, certain concepts were popping out and certain issues were happening in Sri Lanka. Then you could see which particular generation of people got really aggravated and aggressive over it.
Yes.
So not people who knew all of it or experienced all of it, but the ones who experienced the whole, the victorious part of it. Oh yeah, that whole thing, right? You never saw what was behind it. Right? So therefore, see now, that's it's quite like that. So looking at that a little far away, we could see what was happening because we knew that as well. We had that experience as well. So therefore, I would say social media has that kind of influence, which a lot of people see that it as something that is bad, right? So I would say it's pretty much that to what extent people are ready to believe everything in social media, it's quite questionable. Yeah. Because people, starting from little things, like even from brands, people always say what you saw on the website is not what once you receive it, it's not what you actually saw. So you have a lot of memes and all those for those as well. So then how much are you willing to embrace a brand or something that is just coming out and people are just talking about it? How much are you willing to take it or buy it, right? Or else maybe follow it, or it's always a question. There's always a benefit of doubt.
Yes.
That is there in people.
All right. So then, is it easy to become a brand or an influencer on social media? Sorry.
I would say it's very easy.
Really?
Nowadays, but is it in the right way is always the question.
All right.
Now, the thing is, you can see a lot of people who are influenced. It's very easy to become an influencer. Sometimes people think, oh yeah, you just throw out a bunch of filth and then, yes, you are an influencer. It's in that level, right? But I would say, maybe taking a little step away from your question, I would say there's a great deal of accountability when it comes to the fact if you decide to be an influencer or a brand. Because you are indeed representing a massive crowd as well.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I think people, when they talk, when they say something, I think they should be accountable for everything that they say. Not because you heard it from somewhere. Not because, yes, I feel like this about this thing. This is how I feel. No, what you feel is not something that you can cater to a massive audience.
Yeah.
Or a population.
Yes.
You have to see where you stand in that manner. So you can't be judgmental over certain things.
Definitely.
Right? Those things you really need to keep in mind, because if you are going to put forward something, just because I feel like I want to put it out, such a person is not ready to accept whatever aftermath that comes with that.
Yeah.
Whatever the consequences that follows with something of that scale. It's easy for you to say something, right? Now you can see, right, how, now sometimes, even people in the most highest position in a country, presidents, right, saying things, and you can see how impactful those statements or those whatever they say onto people. But sometimes it's like they are not ready to be accountable for what they say. I think that should not be the way. Right. And also, let's say, for example, if you are somebody who's representing youth, if you are somebody who's representing a brand, you need to really believe in it is the other thing. You can't be selling something, you can't be talking about something you absolutely do not believe. All right? You need to live it, breathe it, sleep with it. You need to do all that. That is, I think, the basic terminology of if you say, that's my brand. Yeah. Right? So if you take, I don't consider myself as a brand, but if you say Rasini Bandara, then there is a certain identity to it.
Definitely.
Right? And then there is a way that she speaks, right? There is a way that she conducts herself, right? And that should be that. And if I'm going to change that way, just because, you know, I need to change according to whatever the setup, that's not going to be a brand. And at the same time, if I'm going to say something to somebody, I have to believe in it completely, and I have to back it up with references.
Definitely.
I need to have those supporting factors behind it, right? And I would say, I think it's any right of any human to do what they want to do. But, and because, you know, one person, like I said, would be very much influential, earning so many degrees and, you know, all that, and through a lot of hard work, whereas some person can be an influencer by posting a couple of selfies. It's very easy. But then whom are you going to follow? Or is whom are you going to give a little attention? Selective attention is up to any individual as well. I don't think it's any of our right to comment on something of that scale. But I think then again, whom you are following will absolutely tell about the level of a person you are as well.
Definitely. All right. So then, talking about all of that, what are the do's and don'ts when it comes to branding yourself on social media as well as dealing with the competitors?
Whoa. Is that it, or are you going to?
There'll be one more.
Well, I would say dealing with the competitors, I think you should never see anyone as a competitor, to be very honest. I would say, like I said, that just like every individual is different, Osanda. Yeah. Just like all of us, we have different personality. We are very unique. Yeah. Even if you take twins, they are very unique. Yeah. Right? At least something would change, something in them. So just like we are very unique, our brand or whatever, our image, that's very unique as well. So then I would say there are a lot of psychologists in Sri Lanka. There are a lot of counselors in Sri Lanka. There are a lot of mental health care workers in Sri Lanka. But then I should understand the fact that none of them can be Rasini Bandara. Yeah. That is not. So I have a way of working. I have a way of, you know, I would say, even when it comes to therapy, right, there's a way that I work. It might work for somebody, it might not work for somebody else. But that's not my problem, right? But the thing is, if you have really earned it, if you have worked towards it, right? If you have put your hard work, I think I would agree with Dr. Manisha and say that it's true that it doesn't matter whether it's a male-dominant workplace or whether it's a female-dominant workplace. I think we are all humans after all. I think I really dislike the fact that we have these gender, these particular lines drawn saying it's this. I think we should consider everyone as a human. So humans are unique, and then and humans are different, and their fields are different. So if you feel that you are competent in your skin, you are competent in your profession, then I don't think you need to see anything as a competition. Your competition should be with yourself, to be better than you were yesterday. Right? Because if you deal with one competitor today, tomorrow there's another one will pop out. If you look at the world in such a way. And you will never be in peace. But you will be in peace as long as you are happy and confident of yourself. So I think, did I take the latter part of the question first?
Yeah. So what are the do's and don'ts?
Oh, do's and don'ts.
In branding yourself.
In branding yourself, okay. So I think first thing, there is a particular authenticity. It should be very real. All right. That's why I say that people fabricate superiority a lot. When you are in a pretentious manner, when you are in an act in life, it can't go far away. Okay. Simply, I would take in a relationship, okay, right? I know we have come to talk about brands and marketing. I'm talking about relationships here. But if you take that, there are a lot of couples who comes and say, oh my God, I never knew who this person is. She's not the one I met, right? It's because you are constantly in the act of impressing someone. Now, if you go on with that act, somewhere down the line, you'll get exhausted, right? So the more real you are, the more originality you have, then it becomes effortless for you. True, it needs a lot of hard work. True, it needs all those parts around you. It's more like we have these two limbs, right? When you take a lot of other things, it's more like you're adding limbs to yourself. But if it all gets tangled, it's another problem. So you cannot close your eyes if you decide to become a brand, or you decide to become, I would say, what's the other word you were using? A brand or whatever, image or influencer. You cannot. You need to have your eyes open. Not that during the time that you sleep, but rest of the time. You need to really see what is out there as well. At the same time, have a good reflection on yourself as well. You can't lose yourself, as you go on. Suddenly, then you can't change yourself to become someone else. You need to maintain that original self of yours. I think, is a do, right? When it comes to a don't, I think I mentioned the don't there as well. Don't try to change yourself. Don't try to be someone else, or just say something just because someone else says it. No. Apply it to your life. Apply it to whatever that you have learned. And then you decide. I think that benefit is there in all of us, right? Just because one adult said it, just because somebody who you really respect says it, don't accept it just like that. But you have your own way of understanding it. So, and at the same time, I would say be very mindful. That is one thing. Be very mindful of what you post. Be very mindful of what you're saying, right? Because you can just think, oh, this is because this is what I feel, but it's not that. When you put it out in social media, the minute that you write it, right, you are pretty much putting it out to the public. If you say this is what I feel, then it should be with you as your opinion. But you අපි කිව්වතර මේ අපි ඒක socialize කරනවා, අපි ඒක සමාජගත කරනවා. ඒ කරාට පස්සේ whatever that comes, negativity that comes from you, and you can't be like, oh my God, look how toxic this society is. How negative people are. You can't be saying that. If you are going to post something that is negative in nature, then you have to be ready and be accountable for whatever that's coming the other way as well. Just like every action has a reaction. Right? Then you can't be saying, oh, I don't have anything to do with it. People are so negative, people are so toxic. Right? You wear a nice dress, that's for yourself. You put it out on social media and people will say, oh, it's something's wrong with this and something is wrong with the color. And then now you have already made it public. Now the public will see. They will have their opinion as well, just like you have your opinion. Right? That's where sometimes the thinking goes a little the other way. We think we have our opinion. At the same time, we have to be very empathetic that people have their opinion as well.
All right, so then that takes me to the last question. In your perspective, how would you address the negativity that comes along with you being an influencer on social media?
Well, the minute that you decide that you are going to be a public image, or else the minute that you decide that you are going to be a brand or something, then you have to understand the fact that you are going to be out there. Your life is going to be out there. People would want to know what's going on in your life. People would want to know what's going on in your professional life and in your personal life. So I would say I very rarely deal with situations like that. But then I know for a fact that there are people who are assuming, oh, she must be doing this, she must be doing that. So, and sometimes it comes to you as well, right? And then people, that's why I say also, the people see a very different image of you. They don't see whatever that is there behind you. Now for me, I would say that, when I go and speak to an audience and all that, and sometimes people are like, oh my God, how wonderful it is to listen to you 24/7. I said, I don't speak like this 24/7. This is not me, right? This is my profession. I'm being paid to do this. right? This is my professional side of it. And then if you take the personal side of me, it's very different. I am yet another very, I would say, a normal woman and a mother who has 2 kids. I do all those work as well, and sometimes I become a very terrifying kind of a mother as well. I do those punishments just like any other mother. It's not that I'm the most understanding person in the whole wide world. And as even though that people see me as a therapist who got answers to all our problems, right? I don't go like, oh, let me psychologically analyze this problem when I'm down with a problem, right? Yeah. So I also have my terrible, horrible, really bad moments. But the thing is, yes, so that, the minute that you decide to be a brand, then you need to know that your personal life is actually, I would say, expected, assumed, and maybe predicted in some sort of a way, right? So you have to be ready for that as well. And sometimes you can choose not to speak about it, right? Or you can say no comments, right? Or else maybe you can comment on it. But I would say that being mindful is the most important thing, and what you actually want. Do you really want to say something back at somebody who throw negativity at you? Is it necessary? And then I would say, even at a point, I myself have been a victim of cyberbullying, right? And I deal with a lot of people who are actually victims of cyberbullying, right? And also, I would say sexism, racism, criticism, it's a part of life, right? You need to have a personality. Actually, that's why I say, if you decide to become some person like that, if you decide to go out there to the limelight, right, then you know that these things comes along, right? And you need to have that sort of a personality build up in order to face those negativity. But yes, there's a lot of negativity surrounding social media nowadays, right? And it's to a very disgusting level as well. I would say there are a lot of people who've been victimized by these things as well. And even I would say it's a quite threat to so many brands as well, not just as individuals. The minute something goes wrong, right, maybe a very small human error, right, all these things are a part of our life. And I would say, just like Anuradha would say, just like I think Sylvester sir said, and then Dr. Manisha also said, certain issues and all these things can happen. Now, for example, let's say if Manisha, maybe something went wrong with maybe some of the manufacturing, right? Then it goes out there to the public. Then they'll be like, oh yeah, a woman was behind it. Obviously, she won't have any experience or credibility to work with machines. So, people say so many things of that scale. And it can be very hurtful as well, especially if you're somebody who has really worked hard towards it. But then you need to have a particular mindset, whether how much are you willing to accept those things, right? And that is why I said, Osanda, you need to have a proper understanding of yourself and your competence before anyone else throw their perceptions or whatever they think onto you. Because sometimes I also personally think, what have I done in life? What have I earned? I've done all this, I've earned all this with a lot of hard work, right? All hard work. But do these people know about it? No. And do I need to tell them that? I think it's pointless. Maybe someday they would understand it. But even if they don't understand it, that's not going to be my problem. I will not stop what I'm doing because I genuinely believe in the work that I do. So I would say I stand in some place like that.
Thank you, Rasini. It was really mind-opening. Okay.
All right, Mr. Ahamed. So the first question is, what does it mean to go digital for business or to digitize your business?
Yeah, so Sandra, I think, see, it's a very buzzed term, everybody's talking about digitization. Every now and then we hear a lot of discussions and webinars about digitization or digitalizing your business. Now, but very little actually understand and make an effort to really transform an organization into a digital-driven business. Now, what we need to understand is that across the globe, there is a phenomena in terms of why we should digitize the whole business perspective. Now, I just wanted to show in some numbers, if you allow me. So, judging, if you look at some of the latest trends, there is about, if you heard of Forrester, which did a global survey, they said only 22% of global level organizations still doing something active about digitizing their business. So this is a global phenomenon. A lot of people are not really got into an active transformation in the whole digitalizing the business perspective. Now, why this is such phenomena across the globe is because as we all know, there are two reasons for this. The first reason is there is no clear understanding of what this digitization actually means for a lot of companies. Number two, as always, as a human beings, we are very change averse. We don't like change. We build a lot of resistance to change, and as a result, we don't want to do anything about it. Now, if you look at one of the if you look at the whole innovation curve, if you have understood that, there are some early adopters in anything, then there is a laggard. How innovation is accepted. So similarly, you need to understand that those people who are lagging behind in transforming their
Sorry, Mr. Aroos, just 1 second. I think there is a signal drop. Just 1 second. Yeah, if you could just repeat that point, please. Sorry.
So I was saying there's two reasons why they slow down, and then if you look at there's a concept that we study called the innovation adoption curve. If you remember, it's like a bell. There is always a small set of people who would embrace change first, and then the majority is in the middle. Then there is always a set of laggards that we call, who's very late to adapt to any new change. So now these people who are lagging behind, you need to be very conscious and cautious that if you are not adopting a digitalization that's going around the world, then you have a lot of bad news to deal with, because the bad news is that you will not be able to sustain your business models, and you will not be able to stay ahead of competition. Because we talk a lot of digital transformations being the competitive edge in the future, right? As we speak, is already happening. We heard with COVID-19, the speed in which organizations have to transform accelerated, right? If you have to go in a 40 kilometers per hour speed, just with COVID, it now has become an 80 kilometer or 100 kilometer speed. So I think it's important for us to understand two aspects that I like to throw in. One, to understand the concept right, and to get a very clear aspect of the whole concept. What does it really mean by digitization? The two, we need to have a program that will take care or manage the resistance that we build inside us and in our organization to embrace and adopt the change. So that's two ways of looking at it. But if you look at the why should you do digital transformation? What is it all about? That is primarily because you have 5 reasons. If I want to put all my reasoning behind 5 key points, what are those important strategic edge? What are those benefits? Number 1 is you have to go digital if you want to maintain higher business competitiveness into the future. Without being digitally enabled, you will not be a competitive organization or a brand into the future, right? Number 2, it's about improving targeting. We know all of our business deals with some form of a customer or consumer sets out there. But if you don't today, you don't have the liberty of just going and in marketing we call it the machine gun approach. You can't just fire all around. You need to know exactly where you want to spend every single rupee or your investment. So therefore you need to very clearly target who you want to be influenced, who you want to persuade, and as a result, without digital technologies, without digitally enabling your business, this targeting becomes very difficult.
Yeah.
There's a quote in advertising. You say that 50% of your advertising is wasted, but the problem is you don't know which 50% is getting wasted.
Yeah.
But today with digital enabling the organizations, you don't have to go through that 50% wastage. If you are properly digitizing your business proposition, then you could always use this to target your customer and generate more customer satisfaction. So that's number two. Number three, it has become inevitable that digitization is becoming a new revenue stream. It's a new revenue channel. Whatever business that you're in, you can be in brand business, you can be in service, whatever business that you're in, if you want to generate revenue, you have to tap into the new digital revolution that's unfolding. And that's always an opportunity for you to make new revenue, right?
Yeah.
The fourth one is about agility. We are all talking about agility. Today, especially in crisis, if you want to be an agile organization, if you want to be flexible organization, you need to seek the support and the advantage of being digitally enabled, being digitally driven. That's very, very important if you are seeking this type of competitive edge into the future.
Yeah.
Of course, the last but not the least one, if you're not digitizing, you will never be able to optimize your cost structures in the organization.
True.
Right. Gone are the days you have so much of people sitting and doing manual work. Today we have to look at how can you add value, how can you use human creativity, how can you use your human resources to those areas that you can actually add strategic value, but to let every other operational aspect for technology to take over.
Yeah.
So that is why. So I just highlighted 5 reasons why you should really look at digital transformation.
All right. So I think that was a very brief answer about the whole aspect about digitalizing and the digital business. Okay. So going into the next question, what is this Generation C and what is the effect on its operations?
Yeah, so I think the word Generation C, I think the C stands for connective generation. So what does it really mean to be connected? So there is something that we need to really understand is Gen C means it's connected always.
Yeah.
When you say connected always, it's always on. They are not having a period where they will be only receptive to business. Then there is a period that they are not receptive to business. Now, when we have to talk about Generation C, one unique perspective of this generation is that they are connected basis on 2 aspects.
Right.
They are connected basis on their interest, and they are connected basis on their behavior.
True.
Yeah. So they come together only if their interest is common, and they come together if their behavior has something similar.
Yeah.
So gone are the days that we used to put together people based on their age, their gender, their economic conditions, their income, etc., etc. Today, it's all about lifestyle. So, in other words, a 20-year-old and a 40-year-old can fit into Generation C.
Yes.
Because it doesn't have to be, it's quite different because our understanding of Generation X and Y and Z, it's all about the years that they were born, it's all about their age. But when you say Generation C, it's nothing to do with X, Y, Z, but this is completely different. So we need to understand the perspective of how this Generation C is whether whatever the age group that they belong to, in today's business, especially in the context of operations, you are working with these Generation Cs. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you take your customer base, or you take your employee base, or for any other stakeholders for that matter. Today, everybody that we engage in running our business, especially in running our operations, are a part of Generation C. Right? So that's why it's very critical for us to understand the perspective of how operation needs to be aligned to this Generation C, and it has to appeal to them, right? So it's very important to understand how such Generation C's actually work in the business. Now, if you look at Generation C could be someone of your customers, they could be in your consumer base, they could be your employees, they could be your suppliers or even distributors. So if you want to transform your operations, and if you want to digitize your operations, you need to understand how they are thinking and their way of working would relate to these operations, right? Now, and talking to them in their own language, talk to them in their own ways. Now, that is why today's businesses, it's very important that to be online, to be digitally connected, because your stakeholders are digitally connected all the time, right? So this whole phenomena of COVID-19 again pushed us to become more connected in the digital world than being physically connected. Okay. No, so there was an interview that was done in again global level, where they said half of those people who are part of the survey, they feel cut off when they can't get connected online. They are not engaged. So whether they are employees, whether they are customers or suppliers, when you try to reach out to them, these Generation C's in a very non-connected mode, they feel they are not part of, or they don't want to be a part of. And that's why it's important you consider this Generation C and their behavior in order to design your operations in any business. It could be a startup, it could be a large corporate. To keep them engaged, to keep them part of your business, you need to really design platforms, interfaces that is digitally enabled and that talks their language, and get them together so that you don't really make them disconnected from their business operations.
All right. So then talking about this Generation C, then how can you see, now you said that Generation C is about connectivity. It's not about the age, it's not about the gender, and it's not about the, all the other etc. But
Absolutely.
then, so talking about Generation C and then talking about connectivity, what are the different type of apps that we could be using, okay, for getting the company objectives achieved?
Yeah. So now I just want to throw in some numbers once again to give you a perspective. Now, when Generation C is spoken, I mean, again, it's according to another survey, 69% said that they like to do collaborative working, and 69%. That's almost 2/3, right? And another 73% said that they like to be in an environment that there is a lot of flexible working, right? 75% said that they want to be creative, they want the freedom, they don't want to be told what to do. They only like to be told why you should do it, or maybe what is the objective they need to achieve. They'll figure out how they were going to do it. Right? Another 55% said that they don't believe in having a corporate laptop or a mobile. They like to have and use their own device. So what's this is saying? These are large numbers of your workforce today talking about, or your stakeholders talking about being collaborative, being creative. They want to have freedom, and also really using your own device. Now, that is why apps such as, like, in today's context, I mean, there's a heaps of apps, but like if you take the most common ones, take Microsoft tools, for example, right? Today, all of us are connected, Microsoft Teams, a classic example. Today, every phone has a Microsoft Team app. You want to, you can go in minutes, you can be in your office. All you need is to log into your Microsoft app, and then you're in your office with your colleagues, in your own teams. You're with your marketing team. You're sometimes, then you move to a supply team meeting, and then when you come out of your app, you're back in your home in a minute. All right. So likewise, I can go on talking about Yammer. It's again in a Microsoft Suite app. There is so much of. I mean, you take any app today to operationalize. We used to operationalize. We used to work with courier. Today we don't work with any courier device. All we need is go to pick me and say pick my pack.
Yeah.
Just need to order. So you want to go to a location. You want a customer who's coming to your organization. 10 years ago, we have to tell them, okay, take Gold Road, come 2 kilometers, you will find St. Peter's College. Now what do we do? You just send them the location on Google.
Yeah.
They're going to come and land in your office, right?
Yeah.
You want to go to a particular place, all you need to go to Google and say, okay, where can I find a next restaurant? Where can I find the next petrol station?
Yeah.
So even in our field, operations, it's everything on. Today we have, as an organization, Renco has a fully automated Salesforce that's running on the field. Everything, every single transaction with the sales team, even getting inventory request, even transferring payments, even claiming their own expenses, everything happens through a single click over an app. As opposed to filling forms and sending it to office and getting validated and posting it. We don't do postage anymore. It's everything through a single integrative app. So I think today, everything is managed with just one single device in your hand. All you need is this. Wherever you are, as long as you have this with you and you have connectivity with you, you can run your operations. Wherever you are from. We have more than 12 geographic locations that we need to integrate. Our office, to our warehouse, to our factories, to our sourcing offices in China, to India. We used to travel quite often, very extensively, to every single location of these. But today, all we need is to keep traveling to our phone. Through the apps, we are able to see every operational element, every operational aspect that's happening in all these geographical locations. So that's how important it is to really bringing the whole aspects of apps and digital connectivity into your organization, to business.
All right. That wasn't very how can you say, you summed up all the things that I would have myself wanted the public to hear about it, because there's a lot of things that you'll be able to do with all the apps that's coming up, and then it is doing a lot of benefit for the businesses as well as for personal needs.
Yeah,
So
so I think another good example I just came to my mind, and the COVID app, the COVID traceability app that was launched by ICTA. See, I think if you just if you are a person who using this app, you will know how convenient it has made operations for a large set of organizations, including my organization. If you are to maintain a CR book and enter manually every single information that person is coming in and going out of your organization, it would have been a nightmare. So all what we need is an app to scan the barcode today. Like there is in our shop we have a showroom in Peta where hundreds or maybe even thousands during the season walks in and walks out. If you want to capture all the information, it's going to be a nightmare. So I think it's a great example how we've kind of used this one single point of app to carry out a large operationally daunting task. So
definitely
something to add.
Yes, that's the power of apps. And then going into the next question, what are the cost effectiveness of digitalization in your operations? And as you said, like y'all have sourcing offices in China, y'all have places in India, and then all the other 12 branches that you were talking about. And then you said that y'all used to travel extensively, but then right now it's all about going to your phone and then seeing the entire operation. So what is the cost effectiveness of this, and how did this digitalization help it?
I think before even jumping into saying how we can save cost, I just want to leave one perspective very clearly. We need to understand why we need to save cost. Because there is a criticism for organizations that organizations are very stingy, they're very miserly. Because they want to save everything and reduce cost. but you need to understand the strategic reason behind why you should reduce costs. Strategic cost reduction leaves room for sustainable growth. I'll repeat that line. Strategic cost reduction leaves room for sustainable growth. Because today, organizations need to grow, but we don't want to grow only for today. We need to figure out a way to grow on a continuous basis. So if you want to sustainably grow, then you need to look at strategic cost reduction. All right. Now, in talking about this, there is an enormous amount of research. The maximum cost reduction that any company can traditionally bring is only 2% from a layoff.
Yeah.
Right. If you try to bring cost reduction conventionally by reducing people, by reducing cost, maximum you can do is about 2%. Why? Because year on year there are other cost elements that keeps going up which you have no control.
Yeah.
Right. Now, even this form of cost reduction using very traditional ways of cost reduction actually leaves you with more problem than the reduction of the cost that you're getting.
Yeah.
Now, this is where digitization really comes in. So the current research says that with proper digital technology and analytical tools, you can reduce costs at least up to 5% if you properly utilize. Right? Now, how does this happen? This happens through having the right IT infrastructure and capability. Because it says that highly functional infrastructure is enabling enterprises to facilitate decision making that will develop better customer insights and support cross-functional element with an up-to-date. Now, when you make the right decision, it's very different to going and cutting cost. When you make the right decision, you are cutting cost on the cost that you will be wasting due to wrong decision. This is the right way of approaching digital cost reduction perspective. Right.
Yes.
So there is supplying management with the right data at the right time to improve decision making process is one way to reduce costs, because it doesn't only save time and money, it also protects your business from costly consequences of bad investment decisions.
Yes, sure.
Yeah. So that's one way IT can really, I wouldn't call the IT, if you really connect everything, the IoT, the Internet of Things, which is an integrated part of digitalization or digitizing your business, has to be used wisely. And that's why a lot of people have to come together. It's an organization-wide exercise. I think reducing cost is about understanding what cost elements that is actually needed, what cost elements that is not needed.
True.
If you take a blanket approach, then you will create more problem by trying to optimize. So one way that you can really reduce cost. I'll give you one classic example of how we used to do this in our business. That we had the customer service division, which we used to put complete operations behind. But what we are trying to now do is trying to create an app that the customer can really use it, go into that app, and he can even design their own products on that.
Oh, that's nice.
Whereas we have multiple people liaising back and forth to try and get this design element out. So the customer is now involved in their own product design through creating digital interfaces. So I think that's a huge cost saving for us. But more than cost saving, I'm really excited about the value generation such digital enabled organization can bring in. You don't really have to focus on cost reduction when you can add so much of more value to your stakeholders. That in itself will address a lot of these elements that organizations looking for, try to achieve a cost reduction approach. Yeah, so I was talking about now we are using an app that that is actually going to be given out to our customers who will be able to then through that platform create their own products, even create their own product designs. We work with multiple corporate clients where we used to do this manually, where my team would engage, show them samples, sit with them, design, and then reproduce it. But now we're trying to do all this through an integrated app where we will not be using continuous human interface or human interaction. Rather, the customer himself will have a platform to go inside that platform to create and play with whatever the options they have to create their own product. So something like this is going to certainly help cost, but definitely more than the cost element, what we're excited about is the value addition and the experience that we can give to the customer who is going to go through this process. That is going to be very exciting for us. So digital enabling organizations, digitalized organization doesn't have to approach savings purely through a cost reduction, but they can actually get more savings through a value addition aspect as well. So I think that's the important part of digitizing your business. So it's something like reinvent your business, try to do more with less. So if you are to give an experience to your customer, it's a much enriching experience, much more value addition experience, but at a much lower cost of operations. That is what a digitally enabled organization can gain out of such integration.
And then to all the panelists, I would like to ask, from your opinion, individually opinion, so what will be your message to the public about this digitizing your brand image?
Right. Before I say, I think Anuradha made a very good point talking about internal communication. I was talking to her not recently, about a year back, to one of the HR directors, one of my very good friends. He said they did a satisfaction survey of the internal employees. And he said what was surprising is one of the factors which was highlighted as most dissatisfying is internal communications. And they have said that we do not know what is happening in our own organization. We hear from external people what is happening in our organization. That became the number one dissatisfaction element. So I think it's very right. So internal communication is very important. So thanks for that point. Right. Last words. Right. I think I can recall what Charles Darwin once said. He said, strongest people, not the intelligent people who survive. It is the people who survive are the people who can adapt to change. So I think today game changes adaptability. And I would say, at one more point, adaptability, how fast can you adapt to the changing environment would be the game changer. So I think environment is changing rapidly, right? So how fast can you adapt to the change would be the game changer. So that would be my last point.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Sylvester. Dr. Manisha?
Okay. Yeah, I must say, Mr. Sylvester, he used the word the game changer. So digitizing or digitalizing itself a game changer because it can be positive or negative. Right? So it can influence you positive or negative, and you have to be mindful, as Rasini said, mindful, and you have to have the competence that you know that who you are. So and you have to know how to face those challenges. So I must agree that point, and it is so personal to myself. So that is my message also. So you have to be competent and mindful in digitizing or digitalizing, and also the things you choose, what to accept and what not to accept. So that's the main thing, and we have to know that in digitalizing, it's all about marketing. It is some person's marketing perspective in a manner. So you need to know what to accept and what not to accept. So that's my last words.
Thank you, Dr. Manisha. Mr. Anuradha?
Sandra, thank you for all the panelists for actually giving me some of the points to discuss. Being a director as well as a human resource professional, I should say, digitizing or digitalizing again is basically, as you said, Mrs. Stanley, it's a change. It's a game change. So the most important thing is, Asanda, nowadays Sri Lanka is trying to move with the online things. So my word is to the employers, please try to implement your strategies with the innovative techniques. Digitalizing is not always like you are using the mobile phone, maybe smartphone or tablet or something like that. And also for the employees, it's not the case. But digitalizing will not ruin your cultural values or whatsoever. People are kind of very fear of, whether we are losing our values, especially the conventional organizations. I like that. Always don't be negative. Always be positive. Try to implement things smoothly. There can be some of ups and downs, because all we are expecting is actually the fluctuations, right? That's the game, actually, as you said. So it's my my message to all of the employees and employers both. Digitalize yourself, digitalize your brand. Otherwise, without being digitalized yourself, you can't make a digital brand. So as Manisha said, I should say that it's all about marketing. So to become a kind of a perfect brand, so it's a compulsory and it's a must to have the digitalizing. Thank you.
All right. Rasini?
I can pretty easily say that I agree with all three of them and then work out. I would say yes, I agree with Sylvester sir when he said Darwin's theory of survival of the fittest, and the ones who have the potential of adaptability are the ones who survive. It's very true. I mean, I would say I was not very pro technology as I would say even a therapist, because I face with the fact that there's a lot of children who go through technological addiction nowadays, and I deal with that also a lot in different cases. But the thing is, at this point, I think we should embrace the fact that we have got the ability to be so connected because of this medium as well. I think people in different parts of the world, people in different parts of Sri Lanka, have the ability of coming together. And at the same time, nothing has come to a standstill. Things are moving thanks to technology. So digitalizing, yes, I would say look at it in that particular with that positivity. I mean, if we always try to see the negative side of everything, then we are always going to see it negatively, right? So finding at least one thing positive in a very negative scenario is what, as individuals, we should do. But at the same time, I would say we have become a very high-tech society, but a very less touched society. We also need to understand that you are selling a brand not to a digital device. You are selling something to another human, right? A human doing something to another human, whereas there is a particular medium only, right? There's an intermediate partner over there, right? That's just the medium. So then how much that connectivity matters is another thing that you should really think. So therefore, I think here I would say maintain a balance between the two. Embrace technology, at the same time, do not ever lose those human connections and human relationships as well. And that is something you really need to be mindful of. Thank you.
All right, amazing. So then this will be the last question, Mr. Aroos. So in your opinion, what would you like to tell to our audience about digitalizing, and then, how this will be helping them?
No, so I think there is no question about should you digitalize. Globally, every organization is moving that way, and we don't have a choice. I like to give this one message to every single employee, individual in Sri Lanka, also every single organization in Sri Lanka, that whether we like it or not, today we are competing with the global market. Whether we like it or not, your competition will come from all across the globe. So you have no choice but to adopt to be the best in class in terms of what you do, be it a product, service, or anything that you do. You need to adopt and to become world class. To becoming world class, it's completely inevitable that you cannot go with that journey without digitally enabling yourself. So digital transformation is not the future. Digital transformation is here as we speak. It's just keeping it's accelerating, the need, intensity of such an integration into your business. So if you have not thought about it, it's high time you think about it. If you have thought about it, then it's high time you put some effort behind really bringing those elements into your business.
All right, that was amazing. So again, thank you very much for joining with us, Mr. Aroos. Okay, it was an amazing session that we had with you, and then I think you did a lot of effective points for all the youngsters and then all the people who will be listening into this. So once again, thank you very much.
It's a pleasure.
All right.
Thank you very much for giving me part of this.
So then that brings us to the end of the panel discussion. Thank you to all the panelists for joining with Digitalizing Your Brand Image, organized by Lanka Talents Creation. And I would like to take this chance to thank all our partners: education partner, Tutor.lk, higher education partner, Lanka Academy, insurance partner, Allianz, and hospitality partner, Cinnamon Grand Colombo. So thank you all. Have a nice day. Bye.